It's like Father Time's just kind of creeping his head out of the shadows right now. Steph Curry doesn't hit a field goal against Memphis, follows it up with 31. It's just a bad night. Then tonight shows that maybe the age is starting to get to him. There were a ton of positives. Jonathan Kaminga, excellent. Andrew Wiggins, fantastic. What is not good, 10 losses in the Warriors' last 13 games. Let's break it down. Pacers get the W.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the good word, everyone? Indiana Pacers are now 6-0 at Chase Center. They're perfect as they win 111-105, dropping the Golden State Warriors to 15-13 on the season. This is Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming at you Monday through Friday and after games, breaking it down, free and available wherever you get your audio podcasts. You can also check us out on YouTube. We got a free newsletter that's delivered right to your inbox. It's daily, it's free, and you can find it at lockedondaily.com. Again, that's lockedondaily.com for a Warriors newsletter. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Let's break it down. Joining me today on the show, Kylen Mills. Good to see you, Kylen. How are you?
Good to see you, Chuck. I would be better if the Warriors could execute late in games and could finally get the last run that ends up closing the game, because this was very back and forth. The Dubs fall short. So a little bit of a damper on my mood. But let me tell you what, see this jacket? This is one of those like things you bury that gets buried in the back of your closet that I forgot I had. And I found it earlier today and I was like, oh my gosh, I love that jacket. So I'm pretty fired up about finding this. But you know what I'm talking about, folks? When you like just lose track of something in the back of the closet and you find it and you're like, I love that. Where's this been? That's my silver lining for today. As for the Dubs, it's
They're
been
0-1
tough
since you
sledding
found
these
it.
last 13 games.
0-1 since you found it, so you may have to throw it in the back of the box. Yeah. All right, so let's get
rid of it.
The interesting thing is that the conversation in the last week has been on Steph Curry, because there's the camp. Look, it's the most simple thing in the world when you take the sentimental value and everything that Steph Curry means to the Bay Area out of the equation. And it is, the guy's 36 years old. You look at every superstar in NBA history. I mean, Wilt was scoring 100 points at one point. By the time he was in his upper 30s, he was averaging like 12. Like, time gets the best of everyone. Now, could he be LeBron James that finishes out this contract and is excellent into his 40s? Maybe so. But the league's getting a lot better. And I think we saw in that Mavericks game, and granted, first Mavericks game, I thought Steph Curry outplayed Luka. Then the first Thunder game, I thought Steph Curry outplayed Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But just as the season goes along, you're seeing more and more duds from Curry. And it's not just missed shots, it's the turnovers, the untimely turnovers. And that's kind of the conversation right now, because everyone says, what's life going to look like without Steph Curry? We kind of saw what life looked like without Steph Curry today, because for the most part, he was a no-show in the game. Final statistics for Curry, he goes for 10 points on 2 of 13 shooting, 2 of 9 from deep. So how were the Warriors in this game against a red-hot Pacers team who have won 5 of their last 6? The answer is the young guys. I mean, Trace Jackson-Davis, 13 points, 8 rebounds. I thought they stopped feeding him late after an excellent start. Where was Trace down the stretch? Andrew Wiggins, I consider him one of the young guys, as he hasn't touched age 30 yet. He had 16 points. We'll get into this topic, but Andrew Wiggins has become kind of an untradeable right now, to me at least. We'll debate. And then Jonathan Kaminga off the bench. You want him to play his 30 minutes. The statistics say, for whatever reason, you play him 28, it's a hodgepodge. You play him 30, he's a stud every time. I don't know why, but 9 of 16 in the game. 2 of 3 from deep, 8 rebounds. That was the most notable thing that Kaminga did, was crash the glass. Also had 4 assists, 26 points. A stellar game for Kaminga. And that's the confusing thing about this Warriors team. Andrew Wiggins is the only person that shows up on a given night. I mean, you never know what you're going to get from Curry, at least lately, and you never know what you're going to get from Jonathan Kaminga. And those are 2 of the guys that you rely on the most. Good to see Kaminga. Curry struggles, just your overall thoughts down the stretch of this game.
Like I said, Chuck, this was a game of runs, and the Warriors didn't come up with a run at the right time. And then finally, the offense has struggled to get going in late moments in games. It's a reoccurring theme that the Warriors are struggling to close out. They're struggling to hang on to leads. They're struggling to battle back and overcome small deficits. At the end of the day, the late game execution just isn't there. The offense continues to come up short time and time again during this last stretch where they've lost 10 of 13. I do believe a lot of blame has to fall on Steph Curry. To me, I'm actually shocked looking at the box score that Steph only had 3 turnovers because it felt like a lot more. The decision-making wasn't on. He's constantly being bottled up, whether he's double teamed or even one guy face guarding him. I mean, this may be the playbook that the Memphis Grizzlies set out as to how to shut down Steph at age 36, 37 years old. You face guard him, you overwhelm him, and he can't get the ball out. The thing is, in past years, the Steph of old would find ways to get the ball out to other guys, whether he was double teamed, triple teamed. He found ways to hit impossible shots that no one else in this league can hit. And those days appear to be numbered because as of late, when Steph is really being just intensely covered, like I said, double teamed, yes, but even in single coverage at times, with good defenders, he's struggling. I also think there has to be blame placed on the guys around him because when Steph is struggling or when he is being doubled, other players have to step up. Yes, Steph needs to make better decisions, but you also need for other guys to be cutting, getting into his line of sight. You got to keep the ball moving quickly. When you go back to how the Warriors were successful in the third quarter, the ball was flying around. They were pushing up the floor quickly. They were finding transition looks. Whether it was Steph or someone else, if you're bringing the ball up the floor, get it out your hands quickly. I also feel like Steph on ball, if it's just not working, do something different. Get him off ball. Get him coming off of a couple of screens. Try to do something to help him get in rhythm, which he just never was in rhythm in this game. Very early, it looked like he was just out of sorts. I do think the defense deserves a lot of credit for that. But then also like the Warriors offense, I think Steve Kerr needs to look at what and how they're running things to figure out how do they get Steph in rhythm earlier in games. And then down the stretch, how can they get other guys to start hitting shots? Because if Steph's only scoring 10, if Steph isn't, having a great shooting night, which has happened in the past, there's got to be other guys who step up and score, and there's not someone consistently doing that. So I think Steph takes a lot of blame. I definitely think that he fell short in this game, but I also think the players around him and then just the offense as a whole, like Steve Kerr's got to do something to get the flow better. I love that stretch of the third quarter where you saw the Warriors moving the ball quickly. That's where things started to click. They weren't turning the ball over. They were taking care of the ball while also moving the basketball fast. And that's how you get defenses to shift. That's how you find holes. You get Steph Curry in a high ball screen situation, draw one or two defenders far away from the basket, and there's space to get in behind. Get a pass into the elbow, and then there's a cutter on the weak side who's wide open for the layup. Get more of those looks. And you saw flashes of it, but at the end of the day, the offense didn't come through down the stretch, and Steph Curry came up short in addition to the guys around him.
Yeah, that was a little more analysis than I gave there, just saying Father Time's starting to catch up to him. But here's the thing, like, it's just the consistency factor. It's, do you trust Steph Curry at this point to be a number one on a championship caliber team for 7-game stretches during the playoffs? And based off the sample size we've seen the last couple of seasons, the answer is really no. I mean, dating back to the 50 piece that he had in Sacramento, you kind of got to surround him with someone else. And a funny comment that I saw on the World Wide Web today was,
I agree. I think Steph needs help with another number one score, which I guess was the idea of bringing in Dennis, but he has not been that so far.
Dennis is not that guy. He was never meant to be that guy. But I saw, what if only Jonathan Kaminga had a second option? It's interesting because he's such a polarizing figure right now in the Warriors landscape. He's good. Someone asked me the other day on YouTube, they're like, Chuck, you've been doing this show since July, and I have no idea how you feel about Jonathan Kaminga. And it's the most boring answer ever, but it's Jonathan Kaminga's damn good. You just need him to be better. And it's unfair because he's 22 years old. I mean, out of all the 22-year-olds in the league, there aren't more than a handful that you would take over Jonathan Kaminga. Like, he's a damn good player, but they need him to be consistent. They need him to have the savviness of a 27-year-old vet, and sometimes he's not making those plays. Today, he made those plays. And then down the stretch, it's again, put the ball in Curry's hands. Let's go hero ball. Let's have Curry make a play like it's 2019 again.
Right.
And here's the thing, like, he could still
that ain't
do
working.
that. It's working in certain games. Like, let's go back to the beginning of the year. How many times did Curry bail the team out? It's not working right now, though. And there's a thing called in-game adjustments. There's a thing called reading the room. There's a thing called it's someone's night. It was Jonathan Kaminga's night. It was, quite frankly, Andrew Wiggins' night. At a certain point, I think even the casual basketball fan could say, hey, let's start running the offense through Kaminga or Wiggins. Let's start getting some penetration. Schroeder getting to the bucket, finding Trace Jackson Davis like he was earlier for some dunks. Let's stop just looking for Steph every single play. And I mean, he's a weapon to have. And
Steph on ball too. It's all Steph on ball. It's all Steph bringing the ball up. Steph on ball. No, I'm with you.
And that's the thing. It's like, are they going to maybe empower someone else? And I mean, Steph's always going to be the best player on this team. Or at least close to it. You know, it's never like he's going to fall down to being a 36-year-old Ray Allen. That's not what he is right now. He's still extremely, extremely effective. But for the last time, I'll say it, he's 36 years old. 36 years old in the NBA doing what he's doing right now is unheard of. And you can't expect it consistently every single day. And when you don't have it, you got to let some other guys step up, empower them, give them the rock in end-of-game situations. And maybe it's just the players that I'm talking about, the Kamingas of the world, the Andrew Wiggins of the world. Maybe they're just hesitant and they look for Steph. It's a crutch because they've been taught so often you look for Steph at the end of the game. But it's time for some other guys to start looking for their shots in games like this. I say this, and then Steph's going to go for a 40-piece, like his first of the season in the next game. That's just the cycle of the Warriors right now. I have no idea what the hell to make of this team. It's something different every night. And in this one, it was two pretty even teams. But again, Indiana gets the best of Golden State at Chase Center. That's now 6-0 for the Pacers at Chase. When we continue the conversation, why Andrew Wiggins is an untouchable right now, I'll give my explanation. Does Kylen agree? That is the question. All right, let's tell you about one of our sponsors. It is Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing does involve risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. All right, Andrew Wiggins in the game for the Golden State Warriors. Another good one. 7 for 16, 16 points in the game. I mean, we call him 17-point Wiggs for a reason now. He's averaging 17.5 on the season. It seems like every night it's 16, it's 18, 20, it's 15. The most consistent player on this team as of right now. And he's also one of the most important players when it comes to landing that star. And it's apparent with all the smoke we've heard this entire offseason that the Golden State Warriors are at least flirting with the idea of going out and getting that second star next to Steph Curry. That may or may not, vault you to the top, but the more we're seeing Curry struggle, the more it's hard to think that just bringing in a Jimmy Butler is going to be the piece that gets this team over the top. You don't get much bigger. You get a little more physical. You definitely get older. And you have to tie up potentially more money into him if he wants the extension. So that's for another day. But Andrew Wiggins, right now with a team-friendly deal, it's looking team-friendly with his age, with his production, what he is on the defensive side of the ball, how consistently he is bringing it right now. Somewhat durable for the most part. I know he's missed some games this season, but it hasn't been stretches. It's been a game here and a game there just for some load management and some ankle contusions. So Andrew Wiggins right now, to me, I just don't think that you can include him in any package unless it's something that makes you significantly better or gives you the same amount of, I guess, holding ability is what Andrew Wiggins gives you. And what I mean by that is I can't figure out my words right now. It's just the fact, the tenure, you have him for 3 years. Can you get another player where you have someone for 3 years? But he's not the issue. And right now the Warriors need to fix what the issues are. So I don't think you go after a player that's already damn good, having an incredible season, and try to upgrade with a name that may be a little bit better in Jimmy Butler. You got to look at other ways to get better. And one of those other ways to get better to me was potentially bringing in a guy like Miles Turner, who led the way with 23 points and 10 rebounds, also hit 3 3-pointers in the game and a dagger. He's exactly what the Golden State Warriors are missing. Only one problem. The Indiana Pacers at this point are as good as the Golden State Warriors. So why are the Warriors buying and why are the Pacers selling is the question. And the answer is it's probably not going to happen. You're going to have to look elsewhere. What's your overall take on just the Warriors roster as a whole and how they're going to look for help? Because they need it. At a certain point, you're losing to TJ McConnell and company. Pacers are all right. They're a 500 basketball team. You're now 3-10 in your last 13 games. Curry shooting like 35% in the month of December. You got to do something, but there's no get right pill. There's no easy fix.
Yeah, and I want to go back to something that you said prior to the break, Chuck, and that's the fact that the Warriors could try to make adjustments in their offense. I don't think that's happening enough, and that's where I say that it comes to Steve Kerr and the players around Curry to start to do things differently. But it does start with Steve Kerr, because someone mentioned in the chat, well, what are the guys around him supposed to do when they're being told, get Curry the ball, let Steph Curry take whatever shot he wants, and you just, basically feed him. And I think that's where there needs to be a change in philosophy from the top down. And you go back to some of the early games in the season when the ball was moving around and other guys were scoring and there was a more balanced effort, the Warriors were a lot more successful. And I think there's something to be said for your point, empower some of these guys late in games to take the reins when Steph Curry isn't hitting shots. Because in addition to the turnovers, like I said, there were 3, but it felt like a lot more. The Warriors have way too many empty possessions that are 1-2 pass possessions before Steph puts up a shot that's not always a good look. Now, granted, Steph Curry, because he's one of the best shooters of all time when it comes to career numbers, it's the shot that you usually, and in past Steph Curry days, you let him take because the nights that he gets hot, and when he gets hot, he goes off for 40, 50. But now it's to the point where he's not consistently hitting those shots enough to where they're consistently just empty possessions that lead to the other team, like a Pacers team, being able to get a long rebound and get out in transition, which they're incredibly good at. So that's where I do think that some of the philosophy and how the offense is run has to change for the moment right now to try to help this Warriors team dig out of the hole that they're in, because clearly Steph Curry's not going to be the savior that he's been in years past, where you put everything on his shoulders and he's making these ridiculous falling away from the basket, double team shots, again, first look in a possession. You can't do that anymore. So that has to change. And then the second part of that is, and that's just to be more competitive right now. The second part of that is the roster has to change. The Warriors need another star. The Warriors need another star. The Warriors need another star. It is more apparent now than ever. I think that we don't need to jump off the deep end. Steph Curry doesn't need to retire, folks. Let's pump the brakes a little bit there. He still can hit shots. He still can knock down threes. He still can be a threat. And he still has gravity on the floor. The issue is if there's not enough other players around him that are stretching the defense, that are forcing the defense to stay honest, that Steph is being, whether it be face guarded, double teamed, triple teamed, and he's not scoring the way he used to, there needs to be another star who can take over games in those moments, who can take over games when Steph Curry isn't successful, and the Warriors don't have someone who can do that. You can empower Jonathan Kaminga. You can empower Andrew Wiggins. Are either of those two really, truly going to be star number one scorers on this Warriors team? It's a question. It's a very valid question. I like the potential of JK. I don't know if he's anywhere close to being ready to a number one option. I don't know if he's ever going to be a number one option in any team in this league. Someone pointed out in the chat that I agree with, in terms of the basketball IQ, something's just a little bit off with Jonathan Kaminga. He's an elite athlete. He definitely has a scoring ability, but does he have a high enough basketball IQ? And can he truly develop his outside shooting? Can he be a 3-level scorer by all definitions, of that term? I don't know. And then Andrew Wiggins, I love as a role player, maybe even as a number 2. He's not a number 1.
He's a 3. He's the perfect number 3 is what he is.
is if Steph Curry isn't a number one, who is the Warriors' number one? There's no one. So you need to bring in a big star. That's
The issue is in order to bring in a big star, you're getting rid of Andrew Wiggins, who, I mean, look, there are players out there that are better than Andrew Wiggins in terms of scoring the basketball. We mentioned that name, Zion Williamson, or even his teammate Brandon Ingram. There are guys that can put the ball in the bucket, but in terms of two-way players that also cost the amount of money that Andrew Wiggins do, plus you're getting rid of Wiggins, so sure, you may get marginally be better, but here's the issue that I have. And there's a lot of time left in the season to implement Dennis Schroeder and prove that he's actually a good fit on this team. And also right before the deadline, they can, basically use him as the new DeAnthony Melton and ship away that contract, bring someone else in. But he's such a pick and roll guy. And in the motion offense, it hasn't looked fluent to start. He was 3 for 9 in the game today, 9 points, a team worst, minus 22. You have a gift in DeAnthony Melton's contract, and you had some seconds that you were willing to give up. Are there truly no big men in this league? I mean, I watched the Pacers in the game today, and they get it down to Miles Turner one play, and he has his back to the basket and turns around and hits a little 5-footer over someone because he's 6'11". The Warriors don't have that. Like Trace Jackson Davis, good in the pick and roll. You find him, he's going to finish near the bucket. Good in transition, plays vertically. But that's not the type of player that he is. They don't have anyone. Looney's not that type of player. And it just stuns me that there's not one player in the NBA for $13 million or whatever it may be that you can go out there that isn't a star that just helps you more than Dennis Schroeder. And I get it. You needed points, especially when, Kaminga was struggling and Moses Moody, who only had 3 points in the game today, was out with injury, and Pajimski was struggling. But at a certain point, I mean, I don't know. I guess in hindsight, it makes sense. You put Curry off the ball. Schroeder kind of operates. But 3 games in, you're 1-2 with them. And
not looking good.
No, it hasn't looked great by any means. There's a lot of time for us to be proven wrong. But it just does seem like this front office is allergic to guys over 6'10". Allergic.
After this break, I have a question to pose for you.
All right. That's a tease.
That's a tease. That's a tease,
question.
folks.
Can you tease the question? Can you give me a hint of what's to come so the people stick around?
Yes. My question is, why not more pick and rolls? Why not? Why not? I think it works with Steph Curry and it works with Schroeder, but I have an entire dichotomy that I will digress into after this.
It is tough to teach an old dog new tricks. That's what they say. Locked On Warriors continue. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it is not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on props. Which player is going to score a touchdown? How many points is each team going to score? So much more. You can do it all on a consolidated app. So visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. As for the NBA game that took place at Chase Center, once again, tough for the Golden State Warriors, who do not cover the spread in the game. It's the Indiana Pacers who take it on the money line. They were getting 5.5. Keep a bunch of your points. Plus 180 on the money line. That is what the Pacers win the folks. If you'd like to make Warriors bets, you could do it on FanDuel.com. All right, so the conversation continues. Kylen Mills, Charlie Walter here. This is Locked On Warriors. And it is tough to teach an old dog new tricks. We've talked about this. Steve Kerr has a way that he's done things for a long time. And it's interesting because I was watching just old school Warriors start of the dynasty highlights, 2014, 15, 15, 16. And the ball movement is just so much better than it is right now. I mean, it was so much better. And it's good right now. It's still a pretty efficient offense. But the defense was a lot better back then. Look, the team's gotten older. The core that has won so many of these championships, Steph and Draymond specifically, they have gotten older. And this is what time does to you. And at some point, they're going to have to hand over the keys, even if it's not fully hand over the keys, even if it's, hey, JK, why don't you drive up to Vallejo and then hand me the keys and I'll take it the rest of the way to Tahoe? You know, a little half and half, that sort of thing. You get the keys, I get the keys. We kind of we empower you into being our next guy. And I agree with what you said earlier. Like, I don't know if Jonathan Kaminga is ever going to be a face of a franchise. As of right now, I think he's good. I think he's ahead of schedule on what he can be. I'd love to see it more consistently. But at some point, you don't really have a choice. Trade him like now or play him and empower him. You do not have a choice. You just don't. You can't let happen what happened with Klay Thompson and Chris Paul and just moves in the last couple of years where you traded guys or let them go for nothing or at the wrong time.
As we look forward, I have a thought, and the thought that I alluded to before the break was that there has to be adjustments in what the Warriors are running because it's not working. Why not? And I've actually said this last season. I said this 2 years ago. Why not more pick and rolls? Because that's one thing that I saw working tonight with Steph was when Steph is being overplayed out in the perimeter, play a high pick and roll, get whoever it is, Draymond's man out from under the basket. Steph is going to be double teamed every single time in a pick and roll with Draymond Green. Steph has to get the ball out before that second defender traps, but as they're stepping over, they've got their eyes on the ball, get the ball to Draymond, and then Draymond draws a defender and find someone with an easy cut down low to the basket. And I think that Dennis Schroeder also is a player who excels in the pick and roll. Why not? Why not go more pick and roll versus the motion offense? Someone pointed out in the chat that I agree with, I think can be difficult to get in rhythm early on in a game. And that's something the Warriors have been struggling with. That's something that Steph Curry has been struggling with. And I also think you just got to read the room, as you pointed out, like what is working, what isn't working. And I also question whether or not Schroeder and Curry playing next to each other is really a good fit. Should Schroeder be coming in after Curry? And should they be trading off with some of those point guard duties? I don't know that Schroeder is necessarily a bench player, but like, how do you figure out rotations to where you're, working out their minutes so where they're not on the floor at the same time often? Give Schroeder an opportunity to run some pick and rolls because I think he's much better when it comes to the pick and roll. And then you look at JK, he's a vertical threat. Trace Jackson Davis, you pointed out, is good in the PNR. So like, to me, that was something that was working tonight that there wasn't enough of. And I've said that before, other points during this Warriors last couple seasons. And I just feel like Steve Kerr has to be more flexible and adaptable in terms of what they're doing. I also do want to shout out, I thought that Trace Jackson Davis was excellent as we look for some silver linings. This is going a little bit off topic, but he's a guy that you didn't include in terms of the plan of talking about today. But he ended up finishing the game. His stat line down the stretch of that fourth quarter wasn't quite as impressive, but midway through the third, he was at 13 points. I think it was 5 rebounds, 3 assists, a block, and no turnovers and no fouls midway through the third quarter in 15 minutes of action. Extremely efficient. And you pointed out, I think Trace Jackson Davis is a nice threat in those PNR situations. I like him starting. I mean, it gives the Warriors a little bit more size. And I don't think size is a bad thing. Another thing that I think, as you look at the path forward, look for more opportunities to get out and transition, because if Steph Curry is struggling in the half court offense like he has been, find transition buckets. Find the opportunities where the defense is still disjointed. You look at the numbers from this Pacers game, the Dubs and the Pacers, 7-7 in terms of steals. What are you creating off of that? Well, the Pacers had the 26-10 edge in fast break points. They had the 13-0 edge in points off turnovers. And in terms of the steals and total turnovers, these teams were about dead even. So the Warriors are not cashing in and they're not being effective when they are able to force those opportunities where the defense is not set. So you're struggling in the half court defense, and then you're not able to get out in the full court or create transition looks. In terms of what they got to do moving forward, if Steph Curry is struggling in the half court, other guys got to step up. I think adjust the offense, try running more PNR, try running him off ball off screens to get him open, get him in rhythm early, get him some easy open looks. And then you have to cash in and be much more efficient when you are able to create off of the defense and the defensive effort that you're putting in.
To a much lesser extent, it kind of reminds me of after Gabe Kapler won 107 games, and everyone calls him a genius. And Gabe Kapler's no Steve Kerr, with all due respect to Gabe Kapler, not even close. But he wins the 107 games, and Farhan and him are considered the baseball whisperer, right? And then they try to get so cute with it next season. It's platoon after platoon. It's taking guys out in the 5th inning that are your best players to put in positional matchups, and then it burns you in the 9th inning. It's just like weird stuff over and over, and it's like that's just
the
who he
rotations
was.
do not make sense to me. They don't.
Well, this is who Steve Kerr is. This is who Steve Kerr is, and he's not going to change the motion offense, at least full time, pick and roll. But you would wonder if like the Warriors would be a better team, and if Steph Curry would be just fine if they changed the offense completely and said, "Hey, let's have Wiggins, let's have Kaminga, let's have Schroeder, let's have these guys attacking.
Bigger.
Let's go bigger. Let's go more physical, right? Let's put in Wiggins, Kaminga."
I've only been calling for that for like 3 years of covering this team. Go bigger.
Wiggins, Kaminga, throw them in there at the same time. Figure out some different things to do, try some different things, but it's kind of the same old. And when they do tinker with lineups, they give it one game. They give it one game, and then they go right back to exactly what they were doing. And there's just no flow. There's no consistency. There's really no way to evaluate. And I mean, it's not like at this point in the season, they're getting the chance to practice for 3 hours every single game. I mean, they got guys sitting out. They have, so you kind of do what you see on the floor. So would the Warriors end up ever changing their style? Who knows? Kerr set in his ways. It's a fatal flaw.
That's what I'm saying.
It worked for a long time. It is not working right now because it does feel like more of the same.
Adjust the rotations, adjust the offense, go bigger. I mean, the wish list goes on. And then finally sign another star, but that may be a little lofty goals here.
I don't know. I don't know which star necessarily helps you because the name that's been brought up is Jimmy Butler. And yes, Jimmy Butler is probably a supercharged Andrew Wiggins. He's probably better than Andrew Wiggins, but he's going to cost you depth. Here's what I don't understand. And this is for the last minute of the show. It's completely random. But man, 1 preseason outing or 3 preseason outings. And we're not going to give up on him yet. He looked good in the preseason. He's shown moments in his opportunities, specifically against the Brooklyn Nets. They paid Moses Moody $13 million. I mean, he's about to be getting the same amount of money as Dennis Schroeder and plays 10 minutes, 1 for 4. I know he's coming off an injury. But when's the last time Moses Moody has really done anything? I mean, I'm going down the game logs right now. He's had 3. He scored 2. He scored 3. He scored 6. You got to go back to Denver, 3 weeks ago to where he put up 13. And before that, it was 0. It was 0. He's only scored in double figures, 4 or 5 times this season. I mean, it's nothing crazy right now for Moody. We were expecting a bigger leap from him. That's all I got to say. And all I got to say is nothing.
I have a hiccup. Sorry.
You're good. There have just been moves over the years.
This game is upsetting me. Talking about it.
Started with Jimmy Wiseman. Then it turns into a punch that is a disaster and ends up being a payroll shed. And the latest, I mean, a lot of time left in the career of Moses Moody. He's 22 years old. But he has been a non-factor, even when healthy, for a large portion of this season. But hey, I mean, he got off to a hot start. Preseason, he was scoring 23, 21, 14. I mean, he was literally their best player in preseason. So it does 2 things. It gives you hope, or it was just fool's gold. And you're tied into Moses Moody and don't really have many intentions to play him more than 10, 12 minutes a night and pay him $13 million to do so at a position that you don't necessarily need. He's not necessarily good at getting by his defender and creating good shots, and doesn't necessarily flow into the motion offense either. So I don't know. I don't know about that one. How do you respond? I know you've been a Moses Moody stan for a long time. I'm sorry for the rip job there. It's just he's been a non-factor to the point where I sometimes forget that he's even on the team.
More Moody minutes. That's all I'm going to say. I think I might have I think I might have got rid of the hiccups. No, Moody was not good. He was not good in this game. He hit that one wide open three. I think it was a trail three in transition or something along those lines. Aside from that, but he's been hurt. I feel like he's been in and out, right? I don't know. I'm not going to go along with the Moses Moody slander, but I do think he would be a very movable piece if we're looking to do something. So that's all I'm going to say.
He's
We
not
got
a
to cap
movable
it off.
piece
We
'cause
got to
no one
cap it
wants
off
him.
there.
No one
We gotta
wants him.
cap it off there.
He's making more than he's worth. No one wants him unless they saw him in the preseason. Unless the Lakers, the Pistons, the Kings, and the Clippers, the 4 teams that saw him light it up in the preseason, come calling. I don't think he's that valuable of a trade chip, and may have been more so in the offseason. So I mean, this is what you get when you're kind of hesitant between going all into the youth and also trading the youth. You get to the point where it's Christmas and you're like, what is the plan here? And that's the biggest question. What is the plan? And just when you think you have a sense of what the plan is going to be, the plan changes and changes quickly. So that's where we stand. One quick shout on the way out the door. It's the Indiana Pacers, and it's the player of the game, in my opinion, although the numbers didn't dictate it. Tyrese Halliburton, man, 16 points in the game, 12 assists, 6 rebounds. Halliburton, nice that Sacramento wishes they had him. And Indiana's hot right now. So all the Miles Turner talk that we smoked into the air on this show, unfortunately, that smoke has been shut down for now because the Pacers need a big, and quite frankly, they're trending in a better direction than the Golden State Warriors. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays to each and every one of you. This is Locked On Warriors for Kylen Mills. I'm Charlie Walter. Subscribe and like on the way out the door. Peace, everyone.